When Lucas broke up with me for the 99th time, I nodded and agreed with a smile. Everyone looked at me in unison, and Lucas's face instantly turned unpleasant. I raised my glass and nodded to them. Thank you all, my so-called advisors. Let's never see each other again. With that, I drained my glass and slammed the door behind me as I left. Someone asked uneasily, Camilla isn't really angry, is she? Lucas sneered, she'll be back within 3 days begging me to get back together. Just wait and see. However, 3 days passed, then another 3 days, and there was still no sign of me even after the wedding date had passed. Lucas went crazy. We're breaking up, Camilla. You won't even have a drink. You're really not giving my friends any face, Lucas said, looking at me with a smirk, as if he had everything under control. He knew that once he threatened me with a breakup, I would surely agree, but I just stared at him blankly, my mind constantly replaying the voices of the people I had heard at the door just now. Lucas, this is the 99th time, isn't it? Lucas smiled proudly. Of course it is. You guys are so right. You're really my great advisors. Women are all the same. They just need to be tamed. Now Camilla is much more obedient than when we first got together. Of course, Lucas. How could we harm you? We're your good brothers. The few of them huddled together, shouting words of brotherhood. Suddenly, I calmed down and carefully thought about every bit of the time since I got together with Lucas. The words break up had almost run through all the time we were together. So it wasn't about the lack of security that Lucas had claimed. It was about taming me. Say something. Drink a glass to give my advisors some face. It won't kill you. Lucas's voice woke me up from my memories. I smiled, turned to look at Lucas, and said pointedly, Don't you know I'm allergic to alcohol? Lucas was stunned. A flash of guilt crossed his face, but he still shouted loudly, Just take an allergy pill later. Stop dawdling. I gave him a deep look, then stood up abruptly. I raised my glass to Lucas's friends who were watching the show and drained it in one go. Thank you all, my so-called advisors. Let's never see each other again. The alcohol went to my head, and the high-proof liquor burned my throat hot. I slammed the door and left. Because I was so dizzy, after walking out of the private room, I leaned against the doorframe to take a little rest. Lucas's voice came through the slightly open door. His friend sounded a bit worried. Did we go too far? Camilla isn't really angry, is she? Lucas sneered. She'll be back within 3 days begging me to get back together. Just wait and see. Hearing this, I couldn't help but curl my lips, and my heart suddenly turned cold. I took a taxi straight to the hospital. Red rashes broke out all over my body. The doctor couldn't help but complain, Since you know you're allergic, why did you drink alcohol? An allergy of your degree can be life-threatening if it gets serious. I nodded to show that I understood. The doctor told me to finish the 4-drip in the hospital before leaving. I lay on the hospital bed, feeling my body temperature gradually drop, and the scenes from just now kept flashing through my mind. The first time Lucas casually mentioned breaking up with me was when I couldn't find a parking space for him while we were out shopping. He immediately pulled a long face, parked the car on the national road, and looked at me. Camilla, let's break up. You don't love me at all. It was really without rhyme or reason, but I still coaxed him. I didn't dare not to coax him, and I didn't dare to let a quarrel last overnight. Once it lasted overnight, his group of friends would use big tricks to persuade him to break up with me, but now, whatever. My wholehearted love had been used as a tool to tame me. I was really tired. I don't know how long it had passed when my phone vibrated. I answered the call, and Lucas shouted angrily, Where are you? Why aren't you at home? I was just joking about breaking up. Don't be so serious, okay? I smiled bitterly. He knew I was allergic to alcohol, but he didn't stop me when he saw me drink a glass of strong liquor. And now he was still questioning me about why I wasn't at home. I tried to calm my emotions and said softly, I'm having an 4-drip. Lucas was stunned. Presumably, he remembered my allergy, and his voice became half as loud, Then come home quickly. I'm waiting for you at home. It was already midnight when I finished the 4-drip. The house was pitch dark. When I got back to the bedroom, Lucas was already snoring loudly. I turned on the bathroom light to take a shower. Lucas mumbled discontentedly, "Why are you turning on the light when you're back so late? You're disturbing me. Didn't you say you were going to wait for me?" I couldn't help asking back. All I got in return was a snore. I was stunned for a moment, didn't say anything more, and lay down on the bed after taking a shower. Lucas seemed to wake up. He hugged me from behind and said softly, "Are you angry?" I didn't answer, and he continued on his own, "Stop acting up, okay? My friends' girlfriends are all so meek and obedient. They wouldn't even hesitate to have a drink. You're making me lose face. We're getting married soon." Let's not get married," I said suddenly. The hand that Lucas had around me froze. He sat up abruptly from the bed and looked at me in disbelief. "Not getting married? What are we going to tell our parents? You're not young anymore. Don't be so temperamental. It was just a joke." "Is it really that serious?" I also sat up and looked at him, saying calmly, "You wanted to break up, right?" I agreed. "I'm tired. I don't want to live under your endless tests anymore, Lucas. I love you, but this is the end." With that, I got out of bed, picked up my coat, and left. Lucas didn't stop me. Instead, he stared at me coldly. I found a hotel and checked in. I wanted to send him a message to say that I would go back to pack my luggage tomorrow, but then I saw a red exclamation mark. I had been blocked and deleted by him. I smiled self-mockingly. He had always been like this. He would block and delete me at every turn, and then make me search all over the world for him and apologize. If I didn't, it meant I didn't love him. This time, I didn't rush to admit my mistake like before. Instead, I turned on the home real-time monitor, wanting to talk to him. The surveillance screen was brightly lit. Lucas was sitting on the sofa, and all my clothes were scattered on the floor. I frowned. Just as I was about to press the microphone to speak, I heard his voice. "I've thrown all of Camilla's things outside. I want her to know that I'm really angry this time." His brother's voice came through on speakerphone, and I could hear it clearly. "That's right. Exactly like this. Once my girlfriend got angry with me like this. I just threw all her things out to let her know that throwing a tantrum with us men is useless. Look at her now. Isn't she completely submissive to me? They need to know that throwing a tantrum can't solve anything. Only when they can never figure out your thoughts will they worry about gains and losses and cherish you." After hearing his brother's personal experience, Lucas's expression finally softened and he smiled and agreed. "Brother, you're so smart. Don't worry. I won't agree even if Camilla comes to beg for reconciliation this time. I have to make her pay a price and know the consequences of making me angry. I'll only agree if her family provides a $1 million dowry." Watching the man I once loved so deeply calculate me like this, it felt as if my blood was flowing backwards. When our parents were discussing the wedding, he put on an innocent look and stopped my family from giving a dowry, vowing, "It's the 21st century now. Isn't a dowry just like selling a woman? Our family doesn't want a dowry. As long as Camilla and I truly love each other, that's enough." He sounded so nice at that time, not noticing the terrifyingly dark expressions on my parents' faces at all. Later, when I went home and discussed it with my parents, we thought we should still fulfill the proper etiquette. After I told Lucas, although he was reluctant, he agreed. But then I saw him showing off to his brother. Alas, I said I didn't want a dowry, but Camilla insisted on giving one. His brother chimed in at the right time. "A woman trained according to my methods won't go wrong. How are you going to reward me?" Lucas immediately transferred half of his savings to his good brother to thank him. He even said triumphantly, "This bit of money is nothing. Once I marry Camilla, I'll have as much as I want." At first, I just thought Lucas was a bit money-loving, a bit of a miser, but now all I see is his hypocrisy. And the false kindness of his so-called good brothers. I don't believe that any friend who truly has your best interests at heart would try every day to stir up trouble between you and your girlfriend. Early the next morning, I called a moving team to collect all my things and move them to another house of mine. Lucas called me, his voice cold. "What? Are you really breaking up this time?" I let out an, He became furious. "Camilla, don't regret it. I won't agree even if you come to beg me for reconciliation later. Why are my brother's girlfriends not as troublesome as you? I sneered and couldn't help retorting, then go talk to your good brothers. After hanging up the phone, my heart was still pounding. The phone rang again. It was a strange number. I frowned and answered the call. It was Edward, Lucas's top advisor, asking me to meet at a coffee shop. Edward was dressed in a suit and had sprayed hairspray on his head. He was sitting upright, waiting for me with a big smile. I looked around. There was no sign of Lucas. What's up? Edward stirred the coffee in his hand and smiled at me. Don't worry. Lucas doesn't know. I couldn't help frowning and subconsciously moved a bit further away. I heard you and Lucas broke up. To be honest, he just doesn't know how to dote on his wife. I've really felt sorry for you these past few years. I couldn't help laughing out loud. You feel sorry for me? Don't be ridiculous. At first, Lucas was a normal man. If it weren't for you so-called advisors brainwashing him, would we have ended up like this? I didn't want to waste any more words with him and stood up to leave. Edward also stood up and followed me, bumping into the table and spilling coffee all over himself. He frowned and looked at me seriously. I just know Lucas's character so well. I only came up with ideas to help you escape from this sea of bitterness. Lucas doesn't deserve you. I curled my lips and asked back, then do you deserve me? Edward's eyes widened, and he nodded vigorously. The next second, the door of the coffee shop was pushed open with great force. Lucas looked at the two of us in disbelief, his eyes landing on Edward's hand that was holding my arm. Edward, you. Camilla, I never thought you'd come to my brother to get back together with me. Why bother? I was shocked by Lucas's strange way of thinking. I shook off Edward's hand and was about to leave. Lucas gave Edward an understanding look, took 3 steps at a time to catch up with me, and said somewhat proudly, "All right, Camilla, I know what you mean. If you apologize to me properly, maybe you're thinking too much. It was your good brother who asked me out. Go ask him what happened." Lucas's face instantly turned unpleasant. I started my car and drove away. When I got home, I let out a long sigh of relief. There was no more pain and confusion like when we broke up. I even found it absurd and ridiculous. Are these the brothers that Lucas regards as truth? His so-called good advisors are always trying to steal his girlfriend. I suddenly remembered that I once told Lucas that the two of us should solve our problems privately. But he didn't agree. Whether it was a small quarrel or a big one, he made it known to everyone. Especially his group of brothers, who were always the first to know about our affairs. It's more like I was dating them rather than dating him. I once told him that not everyone in this world is completely trustworthy, whether it's parents or good friends. Actually, I had vaguely noticed the strange behavior of Edward and the others at that time, but I didn't want to say it directly. Who would have thought that Lucas would turn around and tell them, and then be brainwashed by them into thinking that I was a bad woman who was trying to stir up trouble in their brotherhood? Thinking of this, I couldn't help sighing. My head hurt terribly, so I took a nap and then went back to my parents' house. My parents were having dinner. When they saw me come back, they couldn't help looking behind me. "You came back alone?" I nodded, pulled out a chair and sat down. "I broke up with Lucas. Please take back the wedding invitations." Clatter. My mother's chopsticks fell to the ground. I looked up in surprise and was immediately hugged by her. My mother was very excited. "My dear Camilla, you've finally come to your senses. I've always said that Lucas isn't suitable for you. But you insisted on marrying him." After a while, my mother let go of me and looked me up and down. When she saw that I wasn't sad, she let out a sigh of relief. My dad lit a cigarette and sighed. "I didn't believe your mom when she said Lucas was too scheming and not suitable for starting a family. It's good that you've come to your senses now. I'll go and talk to Lucas's father. He should be able to understand. If he doesn't, never mind. We can just cut off ties." After hearing my thoughts and experiences, both of them expressed their support. I couldn't help feeling a pang of guilt. My parents strongly opposed at first, but later, seeing my hunger strike, they reluctantly agreed to our marriage. I was too self-centered, blinded by love and unaware of it. I've caused them so much trouble. Just as I parked the car, I saw a man standing in front of my house. Lucas was soaking wet, shivering as he looked at me. "Camilla, how could you be so heartless? It was just a little tantrum. How could you actually go to your parents and say you don't want to get married anymore?" My dad was so angry when he got the call that I sneaked out of the house. "Come in," I said. After all, we had been together for a few years. I couldn't bear to see him sleeping on the street. Lucas seemed to be back to his old self. He was no longer arrogant or calculating. He just sat there, holding a cup of ginger tea, looking at me blankly. After a while, he finally spoke softly. "Stop this nonsense. Let's get back together, okay? I won't break up with you casually anymore." My hand froze, and the hot soup almost spilled. It was too late. If I had heard his promise a few days earlier, I would have happily hugged him right away. Lucas's home was occupied by his father, and he had nowhere to go. He asked me to let him stay with me for a few days, and I agreed. I knew something about Lucas's family. His father was hot-tempered and prone to violence when drunk. Lucas's mother had raised him in such an environment. I felt very sorry for Lucas, and at the same time, I was proud of his ability to become independent. The pain of his original family manifested in his avoidance of dealing with intimate relationships as he grew up. But that was okay. I was willing to tolerate him and guide him to grow. I just never expected Lucas to become like this. During the few days he stayed at my house, Lucas didn't cause any trouble. Everything seemed to be back to the way it was when we first got together. We got along very harmoniously. Every morning, I would see him busy in the kitchen, and then he would wait for me to come home from work in the evening. Without the instigation of his so-called advisors, Lucas seemed to have changed back. I couldn't help but soften my heart. I tossed and turned in bed at night, thinking about whether I should give it another try. After all, I had truly loved him once. A loud thunderclap sounded, and Lucas burst into my bedroom, hugging me and patting my back gently. My body was a bit stiff, and I huddled in his arms, motionless. I felt my back getting wet. Lucas was crying out, "I'm sorry, Camilla. I didn't mean to break up with you so often. I was really insecure." I paused, remembering his countless excuses in the past, and my face showed impatience. "Listen to me. I'm not lying to you. You only know that my dad is violent and an alcoholic. Actually, I've never told you that my parents used to love each other very much. The reason they're just a married couple in name now is that my mom cheated. After they got married, my mom started fooling around outside. My dad caught her several times. At first, my mom felt guilty, but later she got more and more out of control. My dad couldn't bear to divorce her, so he endured it. Edward and the others told me that if I didn't want to end up like my dad, I had to learn to control women. That's why I tested you again and again. I won't do it anymore. I'm just so afraid that you'll change your heart. Please don't leave me." Lucas was crying his heart out, and his hot tears dropped on me. I hugged him tightly, comforting him. "It won't happen. I'll treat you well and love you forever." I suddenly understood his strange behaviors and was finally willing to let go of my grudges and give us a chance. After getting my reply, Lucas finally felt at ease. He wiped his tears and said he was going to take a shower in the bathroom. Hearing the sound of the dripping water, I lay in bed, filled with mixed feelings. A sense of guilt overwhelmed me. I thought I shouldn't have been so harsh on an insecure man. Maybe I was wrong. Just as I was thinking, I suddenly remembered that the bathroom light was a bit broken. So I got out of bed to remind him to be careful. Just as I reached the door and put my hand on the doorknob, I heard Lucas's low and excited voice. "Edward, you're really amazing." As soon as I told Camilla about my original family, she forgave me immediately. It seems I can use this often in the future, so she'll feel more and more guilty towards me. Guilt-based manipulation really works. I stood there at the door, stunned. Anger at being deceived overcame my reason. I kicked the bathroom door open with a bang. Lucas turned around in a panic and looked at me. He hadn't even taken off his clothes. He had been on the phone all this time. My face was gloomy. I grabbed his arm and threw him out of my house. It was still raining heavily outside. Lucas was crying and pounding on the door. "Listen to me, Camilla. Let me explain. What I just said was all true. I really went through all that. Don't you feel sorry for me?" The more I heard him talk about his pain, the more I felt like a fool. How could I have believed a man who had been poisoned by his so-called brothers? I locked the door from the inside and went back to the bedroom. Lucas kept calling me, but I rejected all his calls. Finally, I was so annoyed that I turned off my phone. Lying in bed, I tossed and turned. My chest felt tight and uncomfortable. Over the years, I had been constantly trying to understand Lucas, but in the end, I was still played for a fool. I don't understand. How could he have become like this? In a half-awake and half-asleep state, I dreamed of the old him. We were like childhood sweethearts, going to the same high school. His father spent a lot of money to send him there, hoping he could find a rich girl in the private school and bring her home. I was the one he targeted, and I was willing. I liked Lucas's stubbornness and hard work. I also liked his sincerity and kindness. Only Lucas treated me like a friend, unlike the others who either flattered me or were jealous of me. After graduating from high school, I didn't listen to my parents and go abroad. Instead, I stayed in the country. They spent money to send me to the same university as Lucas. And so we started dating. Even though I had money, I was willing to spend it on him. But Lucas always refused. He wouldn't even tell me his Alipay account. He said he wanted to earn money through his own efforts and didn't want to be supported by me. On my birthday, he spent the money he earned from 3 months of part-time work just to buy me a necklace. I was shocked when I received the gift and asked him to return it, but he insisted that I try it on. When he saw that it suited me very well, he finally smiled and said, "Of course, lovers should give to each other. You've given me so many sneakers and clothes, and I want to give you something too." Even though my parents said his family background was not good and there was a high possibility that the child educated in such a family would have problems, I still insisted on being with him. We were really sweet during our college years. We hardly ever quarreled. Even if we did, we would solve the problems rationally. There was never a situation like this. So when did things change to what they are now? As graduation was approaching, I went back to work at my parents' company. Lucas, however, with his average academic qualifications and resume, faced rejection everywhere in job interviews. He agreed to intern at my family's company only under my strong request. He said that after getting in through my connections, he would rely on his own strength to stay. I believed him and let him develop on his own. I rarely asked about his work until he introduced me to Edward. I still remember that day when he took my hand, with a rare look of pride on his face, and introduced me to Edward. "This is my girlfriend and also my future wife Camilla." Edward was stunned for a moment, and then he exclaimed loudly, "Camilla? Could it be?" Lucas nodded, looking very proud. That day, he stood up especially straight. When we got home, I casually mentioned, "Didn't you say you didn't want everyone to know my identity?" Lucas got angry with me for the first time. His face turned red with anger. "You're my girlfriend. Why can't I introduce you? Do you think I'm not good enough for you?" Lucas was really angry that day. To soothe him and show him that I never looked down on him and truly loved him, I transferred all my money to him. I promised him solemnly, "I've never felt there was any gap between us. I've always treated you as my beloved." Only then did Lucas calm down. Later, the HR of the company told me that several employees who often took leave had been dismissed. I nodded. I originally wanted to ask about Lucas's work, but then I thought he was so hardworking that he would surely succeed in staying. But when I got home, I saw a mess all over the place. Lucas was sitting on the sofa with a gloomy face. I rushed forward to comfort him, but he pushed me away. Why was I dismissed even though I'm working at my girlfriend's company? I just took a few days off. Don't I have the right to my own social life? I also need to live. Why were they allowed to dismiss me? My brows twitched. I remembered what the HR told me about those interns who came to work only 1 week a month and were nowhere to be seen for the rest of the time. I couldn't help but say, "Lucas, you can't take leave frequently at work. No company wants such employees. Lucas's face changed instantly. He stared at me, biting his lower lip hard. So what? If I just wanted to be an ordinary employee, why wouldn't I go to work at other big companies? I only agreed to come here because it's your family's company. Besides, I'm your husband. Why can't I take leave? I was shocked by his words. I wanted to tell him that the company wasn't mine yet, it was my dad's. Even as the only daughter, I could have my inheritance rights taken back at any time. No one has a completely smooth sailing life. But seeing Lucas on the verge of a breakdown, I remained silent. I asked tentatively, "Do you still want to come back to work?" After thinking for a while, Lucas's expression softened a bit as he shook his head. "No, I won't. Anyway, you'll inherit the company after we get married. Why should I endure that hardship? We should enjoy the good fortune when we have it." In the end, Lucas didn't go back to work. Instead, he took my card and started traveling around. Later, my assistant told me that Lucas had made a group of rich second-generation friends. That's why he became like this. After further investigation, I found out that they were the so-called rich second generation like Edward. They called each other brothers, and their daily life was traveling all over the country, staying in high-end hotels, and buying watches and clothes. After learning this, I regretted for the first time bringing Lucas into this circle too early. I had hinted to him in various ways that these so-called rich second generation weren't really wealthy. There was more or less something unsavory behind each of them. The real rich second generation either started learning to inherit the family business early or set up their own independent careers. Unexpectedly, Lucas's face darkened immediately after hearing this. "You think I'm spending too much money, don't you? I didn't spend much of your money when we were together before. What's wrong with spending a bit more now?" When I woke up from the dream, I felt a sense of loss. I thought maybe it really was my problem. After all, the most attractive thing about Lucas in the past was that he always had a positive and upward attitude no matter where he was. He stuck to his bottom line, kept working hard, and strived for himself. It wasn't that I minded him spending a lot of money. At first, I was even happy that he was willing to spend my money, as it made me feel that he regarded me as someone close. But I never expected this situation to get worse. He was gradually poisoned by the luxurious lifestyle of Edward and the others, and all he could think about was a life of debauchery. That's why he believed their words and wanted to control me so that he could live a carefree life for the rest of his life. I let out a deep sigh and took out my phone to call my assistant. I continued with my life, taking over the family business step by step. Over the years, I haven't stopped moving forward. I gradually adapted to the family business and kept learning. After I managed to avoid Lucas several times when he came to my house to block me, he didn't come again. I heard from others that he hangs out with Edward every day. I canceled the card I gave him. Sure enough, not long after, Lucas came to my door again. He was furious. "I've spent so much energy on you. It's fine if you don't give me a breakup fee, but you even canceled the card? How are you going to compensate me for my time?" Looking at the distorted face of the man in front of me, I suddenly remembered that someone once asked him during our college days, "Aren't you afraid that Camilla is just playing with you and will dump you? Then wouldn't the time you've spent be wasted?" What did Lucas say back then? Without much thought, he said with a look of disapproval, "We're in a relationship. There's no such thing as wasting time. Even if we really break up in the future, we'll have wasted time on each other." Now he's asking me for a breakup fee as if it's a matter of course. It turns out that time and environment really can change a person. It felt like something was blocking my heart. I looked at him quietly for a while, then took out my phone and transferred 100,000 yuan to him. "Let's call it a day. Don't contact me anymore." With that, I turned to leave. Halfway there, as if I suddenly remembered something, I turned back to look at him and said seriously, "Lucas, think about your original intention. Don't be blinded. Edward and the others aren't the people you should associate with." Lucas's face changed slightly. He opened his mouth and gave a mocking smile. "You're a rich young lady. You look down on people like us who've managed to climb up with great difficulty. Just say it straight. Seriously, you really don't know the hardships of the people." With that, he turned around and got into a Lamborghini. I stood there quietly, watching him leave. Don't know the hardships of the people? All I wanted to do from the very beginning was to use my ability to help my lover move up a level, so that he could see the world with my support. What I wanted was to help him become better. Not like this, where he gets addicted to the illusion as soon as he comes into contact with it. Back at the company, I put this matter out of my mind and continued with my work. Not long after, about a month later, the news that Edward was being chased and beaten by his wife spread throughout the circle. It turned out that the girlfriend who he claimed was completely obedient to him had always been married. No wonder I had never seen her. After this incident, Lucas's original group of friends fell apart. The next time I saw Lucas, he came to the company to apply for an internship. The HR looked at me hesitantly. He said, "He's your fiancé, so what do you think?" Lucas looked at me with red-rimmed eyes. I glanced at him indifferently and then continued to look down at the documents, follow the procedure. There's no need to ask me. In the end, Lucas was still hired. I don't know what method he used. The HR said his resume was decent enough, and they could let him try for half a month. I didn't ask any more questions. I just saw Lucas working hard at his station every day when I commuted to and from work. Every time he saw me, he would always come forward and try to say a few words to me. My assistant would step in between us in a timely manner and escort me to the car. Soon it was my birthday. My dad was going to hand over the company to me completely on this occasion. Lucas called me using a new phone number, saying he wanted to meet. When I refused, he pleaded stubbornly, "Just one last time. I won't bother you anymore after that." I agreed that we finally met in the company's meeting room. In just 1 month, Lucas had lost a lot of weight. He looked up at me and gave a bitter smile. "I was really stupid back then. I thought you were mocking me. I never expected that Edward was actually not a good person at all. Now it's a mess." We used to call each other brothers affectionately, but now we all pretend not to know each other when we see each other for fear of getting involved. I took a sip of coffee and didn't say anything. Lucas sighed. "You've seen that I've been working hard during this period. I haven't taken any more leave. You told me last time to think about my original intention. Now I realize how I've become like this. Maybe the luxurious and dissipated life blinded me. I got addicted to this decadent lifestyle. Looking back now, I feel so stupid. I could have been with you happily and then worked hard to develop my career and live a happy life, but I messed it up myself. I'm quite pathetic, aren't I?" He looked up at me, expecting a response. I frowned, not understanding why he came here to pour out his feelings out of the blue. But out of courtesy, I cleared my throat and said, "It's okay. This was your own choice. Whether you regret it or not, it's already done. If you've really realized it, it's not too late. Work hard. I won't make things difficult for you because of what happened in the past. I don't have the time for that." "Alright then. I need to go home in a while. I'm running out of time. Today is my birthday." My dad asked me to go home before the press conference. I looked at my watch, stood up, picked up my coat, and prepared to leave. Lucas grabbed my arm and looked at me with red eyes. "After all I've said, you still won't forgive me?" "I've realized my mistake. I know I shouldn't have tested your love for me again and again. I used the wrong methods. Can we start over?" I gently shook off his hand, looking speechless. "It's already over between us. Since the 99th time you broke up with me." With that, I strode away. After going home and signing the documents, I changed into a dress and went to the press conference. The press conference was already filled with reporters. I adjusted my clothes in front of the mirror and then stepped onto the stage. Just as I sat down, a group of policemen rushed in through the door and showed me their badges. "Police. Someone has reported you for tax evasion. Please come with us for an investigation." When I got home after the investigation, the news was everywhere. I was the first one to be taken away for investigation before officially taking over the company. What's strange is that the company was indeed found to have tax evasion issues. My dad gave me an ultimatum, asking me to thoroughly investigate the mastermind behind this. Otherwise, I wouldn't be allowed to inherit the family business. I stayed up for 3 days and 3 nights at the company. Finally, I found out the last link. When I walked into Lucas's house with the police, he was sitting amidst a sea of wine bottles, looking at me. "Pretty fast," Lucas said, as if he had expected this. He obediently put on the handcuffs and followed the police away. I have to say, Lucas is quite smart. When we were talking about marriage, I told him almost everything about the company, even some passwords and documents. He remembered all of it. This time, taking advantage of the fact that both my dad and I were busy preparing for the inheritance, he struck. Lucas was imprisoned. I sat opposite him, looking at him in prison clothes, feeling a bit melancholy. Lucas stared at me for a while, then suddenly sneered. "Don't look at me with that pitying gaze. I knew you'd find out. It was just a matter of time. Why did you do this?" I couldn't help asking. He could have gone somewhere else and lived a good life. His eyes were bloodshot. He stood up abruptly as if I had touched a sore spot. "What else could I do? My reputation is ruined. I lost the chance to marry you, and everyone in the circle is laughing at me. I originally wanted to rely on Edward to find another rich person, but he cheated me too. You rich people just like to play with others like they're fools, don't you?" I stared blankly at the frantic man in front of me. There was a time when he said that all people were equal. Now, he kept referring to rich people. "Camilla, you don't understand at all." Suddenly, he slumped dejectedly into the chair, laughing and crying at the same time. "After being with you, at first, I really thought I could be with you happily, not caring about money or status. I really thought I could be with you based on my own ability. Later, I realized how important money was and how great it felt to be rich. What was the point of my false pretensions in the early years? How stupid I was. So I listened to Edward's words and used his tricks to try to hold on to you and live a rich life myself. You don't understand anything. You were born rich. You have no idea how hard our lives are." I was speechless for a moment. It took me a while to speak. "Lucas, I do understand. My family wasn't always rich. When I was a kid, I didn't even go to kindergarten. We were very poor. It was only later that we got rich." Lucas looked at me in surprise. I continued. "So I understand what you mean about only realizing the importance of money after having it. That's why, even though my family is rich now, I've always been working hard. Because I've been poor and I don't want to go back to that. So I've never looked down on you. I always wanted to help you achieve your dreams and work hard with you. I thought we were the same kind of people, but you took a different path. Actually, I should have known we weren't on the same page when you repeatedly brought up breaking up to try to control me. I just wasn't ruthless enough to end it earlier. That's it. We have nothing more to say." With that, I stood up to leave. Lucas called out to me. I turned around. Big tears rolled down his face. "If I hadn't repeatedly brought up breaking up and tried to control you, would things have been different?" I thought about it and shook my head. "We would still have separated. You like to wallow in self-pity and use your pain to make others feel sorry for you. This is your weakness. It will never change in your life." Behind me came the sound of sobbing. I didn't turn back and walked away quickly. I smoked a cigarette, got into the car, and returned to the company. As night fell, the employees left one by one. I took a sip of coffee and continued working. Everyone starts at a different line. I'm just lucky to have run a minute longer than others. There are so many different kinds of people in this world. If you can't hold on to your true self, you'll be swallowed up. So I don't blame Lucas. He's just an ordinary person consumed by desire.